So, here we are. This will be, or this is, session number 23. This is the last section in chapter 3. Chapter 3 is called The Innocent Perception. And the title of this section, which is section 7, VII, for you old Romans, if there are any of you left. All right. Section 7, page 49. It's called it's Creating versus the Self-Image. Okay. And Jesus says to Helen, and through Helen to us, every system of thought must have a starting point. It begins with either a making or a creating, a difference we have already discussed. Their resemblance lies in their power as foundations. Their difference lies in what rests upon them. Both are cornerstones for systems of belief by which one lives. It is a mistake to believe that a thought system based on lies is weak. Nothing made by a child of God is without power. It is essential to realize this, because otherwise you will be unable to escape from the prison you have made. All right? And the prison we have made is the ego thought system. All right? The belief that we are separated from oneness, separated from all that is. All right? And he says, just because it's a lie, you don't think it's not powerful. I mean, let's just take a look around us here. All right? This ego thought system is quite powerful, proving to us, trying to prove every minute, every moment within every minute that it is what's real. All right? So he says every system has a starting point. Okay? And he says both are cornerstones. All right? So the right-minded thought system, the thought system of the memory of who you are, the thought system of the Holy Spirit, right, is also, very powerful, of course, and that is the truth. Right? That is what we go to correct our perceptions in the ego thought system. All right? So just don't think the ego is weak just because it's a lie. Right? It's very powerful because your mind is powerful. That's what's powerful, is the mind. Right? Nothing made by a child of God is without power. Okay? And it is essential to realize this, because otherwise you'll be unable to escape from the prison you have made. So one of the ways we won't be able to escape is by denial, saying I'm the innocent victim. I didn't, I have nothing to do with this, or by not looking at what my thoughts are. Just keeping myself numb within the ego thought system. Keep very busy with, whatever. You could be busy with anything, really. And that can be, even if it seems like a very positive activity or, intellectual process or something, it can be just a way to distract us or not look at the ego thought system. Okay? So it's essential to realize that nothing made by a child of God is without power. All right? The ego thought system is powerful. All right? But it's not, as he'll say later, it's not God-proof. All right? Because once you get into the habit of going and questioning the ego thought system, right? Once you get into that habit and you go to the right mind, the right mind is reinforced. We get relief. we get understanding, we get more and more compassionate and generous and kind. And as Ken would say, eventually we're walking down the street with that little smile on our face because we understand and everything's okay. All right? So, and I'm just reminded of that Leonard Cohen song once again, his song called Anthem, where he says, there's a crack in everything, and that's how the light gets in. So our questioning the ego thought system is the crack. That's the crack in the ego thought system. And then the light is able to enter, right? And Jesus says, together we have the lamp that will dispel the darkness. Okay then. Paragraph 2. You cannot resolve the authority problem by depreciating it, by depreciating the power of your mind. Right? To do so is to deceive yourself. And this will hurt you because you really understand the strength of the mind. You also realize that you cannot weaken it any more than you can weaken God. The devil, in quotes here, is a frightening concept because he seems to be extremely powerful and extremely active. He is perceived as a force in combat with God, battling him for possession of his creations. The devil deceives by lies and builds kingdoms in which everything is in direct opposition to God. Yet he attracts men rather than repels them, and they are willing to, in quotes, sell him their souls in return for gifts of no real worth. This makes absolutely no sense. All right? Jesus lets us know it makes absolutely no sense. All right? And I think I'll just go on to the third, and we'll come back. We have discussed the fall or the separation before, but its meaning must be clearly understood. The separation is a system of thought, real enough in time, but not in eternity. All beliefs are real to the believer. The fruit of only one tree was forbidden in the symbolic garden, but God could not have forbidden it, or else it could not have been eaten. If God knows his children, and I assure you that he does, would he have put them in a position where their own destruction was possible? The forbidden tree was named the tree of knowledge. Yet God created knowledge and gave it freely to his creations. The symbolism here has been given many interpretations, but you may be sure that any interpretation that sees either God or his creations as capable of destroying their own purpose is in error. All right? So he says you can interpret the story of Adam and Eve any way you want, but it's wrong, right? It's in error, okay? So, we'll just go back to the beginning of paragraph 2, and it says, you cannot resolve the authority problem by depreciating the power of your mind. And remember, the authority problem is, who is the author of me? You know? And the ego will tell me I'm a self-made man, you know? And look around at everything that man has made, and I'm an individual, and all right? But the truth is that the source, the one source, and when we use the Course in Miracles, we use the language of Christianity. So God is the source. God is the author. God is the first impulse. God is the first thought. All right? And we are the thoughts of God. We are the extension of God's mind. Okay? So therefore, God created us. All right? God created the one mind, the one Son of God, and we believe there's a lot of us's running around. All right? But that's okay. We'll get there. All right? Just start where you are, as we say. All right? So he says every thought system, he says you cannot resolve the authority problem by depreciating the power of your mind. He says you have to remember your mind is very, very powerful. You can't deny things, right? To deny that your mind is powerful is to deceive yourself, all right? And this will hurt you because you really do understand the strength of the mind, all right? You also realize that you can't weaken it, because to weaken it would be like weakening God, all right? And like I said, the devil is a very scary thing. All right, we get brought up with, in the Christian world, in the Western world, we get brought up for millennia with the idea of a devil in opposition to God. You know, Lucifer, I will not serve. You know, I've always found it scary as a young boy. It's like I can understand where Lucifer was coming from. It's like, oh my God. So that was a frightening thought, you know. But I always was, you know, rather rebellious in one way or another. Anyway, okay. So he says the devil is a frightening concept because he seems to be extremely powerful and extremely active. Right? And even in the book of Job, you know, you see it in the Old Testament, where, you know, God is in this contest with the devil. You know, it's like, okay, let's see who, you know, let's see if this guy still believes after we torment the life out of him. All right, and Job becomes a tormented figure, you know, because God and the devil got this contest going on. All right, and he says, and even though the devil is like a scary thing, all right, it says like he attracts men rather than repels them. All right, because he builds these kingdoms in which, you know, everything is so attractive, but they're all in direct opposition to God. All right, you get the stories of Faust, you know, and all the stories of people who sell their soul to the devil, and then the devil comes to collect, you know, in return for gifts that have no real worth. All right, and there's Jesus putting his 2 cents in. He says, this makes absolutely no sense, okay? So selling your soul to the devil makes absolutely no sense. All right? And he says, we've discussed the separation already, you know, but its meaning, it must be clearly understood. The fall, you know, the fall from grace. It was decision to, it was a thought. As Jesus will say later on, the tiny mad idea at which the Son of God remembered not to laugh. All right? It's like he forgot to laugh at that. All right? What a ridiculous idea that I could be separate from God. What a silly idea, but the mind is that powerful that, it started to entertain that thought. So the mind split, and then I had to make a choice. Well, what is it that I believe? Do I believe I'm separate, or I can be separate, or I can accomplish that? Or do I believe that I am, you know, happy and content in the oneness? I am one with my Creator. All right? And here we are. All right? The fall or separation, but its meaning must be clearly understood. The separation is a system of thought, based on the foundation that I could be separate from God, a belief that I could be separate from God. All right? And he says it's real enough in time, because once I believe that, once I identify with that thought, as they say in the Course, the carpet of time rolls out. All right? So time and space all of a sudden are here. All right? So within time and space, the idea of separation is real. All right? But he says, but it's not real in eternity. It's not real in the mind of God. All right? That's why we refer to this as a dream or an illusion. And there are other spiritual systems that refer to existence here as the illusion, right? The dream. Okay? He says, but it's not real in eternity. All right? So in actuality, it's not real. All right? But he says all beliefs are true to the believer. All right? So he says, it's true. If you believe it, it's true. So, and then he goes on to talk about the Garden of Eden once again. But he says, look, if God didn't want you to eat something, you wouldn't be able to eat it. All right? And he says, but it's not like God to trick you, to say, okay, there's one tree over there, don't go near that tree. All right? He says, why would God set you up for your own destruction? He says, it's ridiculous. That's what he says. It makes no sense. All right? He says, you may be sure that any interpretation that sees either God or his creations as capable of destroying their own purpose is in error. And our own purpose is extension of love, extension of the thought of everything, which includes abundance and bliss, joy beyond words, the peace that passes understanding. I have a problem saying the word passeth. Okay, it takes too much time. All right, too many muscles. But anyway, that's what God is all about, and that's what we are. All right, that's our purpose. So he says, there isn't a God that exists that wants you to destroy your own purpose, right? That you're capable of eating the fruit, and therefore being thrown out of the kingdom. Alrighty then. Paragraph 4. Eating of the fruit of the tree of knowledge is a symbolic expression for usurping the ability for self-creating. This is the only sense in which God and his creations are not co-creators. The belief that they are is implicit in the self-concept. So I have a self-concept. I believe I created myself. Right? Or the tendency of the self to make an image of itself. Images are perceived, not known. Right? There's that repetition of that idea, perception and knowledge. Perception occurs in the ego thought system. Knowledge is in the mind when we are at home in God. Right? That's where knowledge is. All right? So images are perceived, not known. Knowledge cannot deceive, but perception can. You can perceive yourself as self-creating, but you cannot do more than believe it. All right? You can't make it true. All right? I'm self-created, but he says you can't make it true. You can believe it. You can believe it all you want, but you can't make it true. All righty. And as I said before, when you finally perceive correctly, you can only be glad that you cannot. So once we finally perceive correctly, it's like, oh, what a relief. I'm not self-created. I'm not this individual that has to go into this, horrible world where it's me or you. You know, I have to make all kinds of plans and schemes and defenses and everything. Wow, what a relief. All right? What a relief that I am an extension of the mind of God. All right? What a relief it is, as the old commercial would say. All right? So, and as I said before, when you finally perceive correctly, you can only be glad, right, that you are not self-creating. Until then, however, the belief that you can is the foundation stone in your thought system, and all your defenses are used to attack ideas that might bring it to light. You still believe you are an image of your own making. Your mind is split with the Holy Spirit on this point, and there is no resolution while you believe the one thing that is literally inconceivable. That is why you cannot create and are filled with fear about what you make. Right? That last sentence, once again, refers to the idea that creating goes on in the mind of God. That's what we do. That's our purpose. All right? We create as God creates in the mind of God, right? In the true reality. But until then, we are here in the perceptual world making things, right? And he says, and you are afraid of what you made, right? And there's a lot of proof of that. I mean, since it all began, if you think about it, people have been walking around in heightened states of anxiety. As Jesus at one point says, you walk around here, all right, uncertain, lonely, and in constant fear. And if you sit and think about it for a second, you know, it's true. All right? So that is why you cannot create, right, and are filled with fear about what you make. All right? Because we can't create because we still believe in that thought system that says I'm self-created. Right? Right? You still believe you are an image of your own making. All right? Your mind is split with the Holy Spirit on this point. And there is no resolution while you believe the one thing that is literally inconceivable. All right? So while you still believe it, that you're separated from God and that you are self-creating, it says there's no resolution, and you'll always be walking around in fear, right? With little oases of, you know, laughter and pleasure or whatever, but there's always the fear in the background. Okay. So the mind can make the belief in separation very real and very fearful. All right? This belief is the devil, all right, in quotes once again. It is powerful, active, destructive, and clearly in opposition to God, right? Because it literally denies his fatherhood. Look at your life and see what the devil has made, but realizing that this making will surely dissolve in the light of truth, because its foundation is a lie. Right? Your creation by God is the only foundation that cannot be shaken, because the light is in it. Right? Your starting point is truth, and you must return to your beginning. Much has been since then, but nothing has really happened. Your self is still in peace. Your higher self, capital S, self, is still in peace, even though your mind is in conflict. You have not yet gone back far enough. And that is why you become so fearful. And here's a very interesting sentence now. As you approach the beginning, with capital B, as you approach the beginning, you feel the fear of destruction of your thought system, right? As if it were the fear of death. There is no death, but there is a belief in death, right? You can let these things sink in. As Dr. Wapnick would always say, just let the words wash over you, right? Let them wash over you, because your higher self is resonating with these words, right? So he says, look at your life, look at it, and see what the ego, the devil, has made, right? But realize that this making will surely dissolve, right? It will surely dissolve in the light of truth, because its foundation is a lie, right? So the whole thought of separation, it begets this ego thought system that is founded on a lie. You can't separate from the mind of God. You never separated from the mind of God. All right? And if we look at our thought system, right, we're shining the light on it. We go to the holy instant, as we say, joining with Jesus and the Holy Spirit, whatever symbol represents love to you. All right? And say, help me to look at this with your eyes. We are shining the light on this ego thought system, which is founded on lies, and it will dissolve. All right? It will surely dissolve in the light of truth, because its foundation is a lie. And here's a very beautiful statement about who you are. Your creation by God is the only foundation that cannot be shaken, because the light is in it, right? Your creation by God, God extended the thought of love and abundance and everything and all that is. God extended it, and there we are. That is us. And he says that's the only foundation that can't be shaken, because the light is in it. Your starting point is truth. All right, that's where you begin. And that's where you will always be. All right, as Gangaji would say, you are that. And you must return to your beginning. All right, sooner or later, this ego thought system will be dissolved. And we return to the beginning. But as we're dissolving it, all right, we're on that journey to dissolve it. All right, he says you haven't gone back far enough yet. All right, he says, just remember, your true self is still in peace. All right, as they say, you are at home in God, dreaming of exile. All right, your true self is still at home in peace. All right, even though your mind is in conflict. We're having this dream of nuttiness, all right? And he says, you haven't gone back far enough. We haven't gone back to the beginning yet, all right? And because we haven't gone back to the beginning where we exist, he says that, so you're still fearful, you're still afraid, you're still anxious, all right? Different degrees of anxiety, okay? And he says, and as you get closer and closer to the ultimate truth of who you are, as you get closer to the beginning, right, you feel the fear of the destruction of the ego thought system. Right? The true words here are, you feel the fear of the destruction of your thought system upon you, as if it were the fear of death. So the ego knows it's being dissolved. It doesn't know how, but it feels it's weakening, and it throws up all these defenses. So you're liable to get these, very powerful thoughts about, oh, you're going to die, you're going to die. You're going to get sick. Something's going to happen. I'm telling you, right? All these crazy things. You don't even realize it until it's right on you, right? But you just keep asking for help to see things correctly, right? And Jesus, Holy Spirit, will give us the message, all right? He'll tell us there is no death, all right? There is no death, but there is a belief in death, okay? And he tells you, all these things. Your mind is very powerful, so if you believe it, it's true, all right? But what we believe can die is this shell, this body, all right? But Jesus, later on, he's going to tell us again, I demonstrated to you that there is no death, all right? Okay then. Paragraph 6, okay? The branch that bears no fruit will be cut off and will wither away. Be glad. The light will shine from the true foundation of life, and your own thought system will stand corrected. It cannot stand otherwise. You who fear salvation are choosing death. Life and death, light and darkness, knowledge and perception are irreconcilable. To believe that they can be reconciled is to believe that God and his Son cannot. Only the oneness of knowledge is free of conflict. Your kingdom is not of this world because it was given you from beyond this world. Only in this world is the idea of an authority problem meaningful. The world is not left by death, but by truth. And truth can be known by all those for whom the kingdom was created and for whom it waits, which means everybody. All right? The world is not left by death, but by truth. And truth can be known by all those for whom the kingdom was created and for whom it waits. All right? And that's us. That's all of us. Okay? And the branch that bears no fruit is the ego thought system. Right? It will be cut off and it will wither away. Right? And it withers away by us being mindful of what we're doing, of what we're thinking. We could stop at any point during the day and examine what was I just thinking. It's an excellent exercise. All right. And then we could say, oh, that's an ego thought. I'm in the ego thought system. So I must be listening to the wrong guide. Right? So at any thought, any time during the day, I can go back and ask for my perception to be corrected. Help me to see this correctly. And little by little, I dissolve this ego thought system. And this branch, this ego thought system, will wither and die. Right? And it's just the thought system that dies. Right? And by the time we get to that point, we understand. Right? We understand that, this was just incorrect. This was just silly. And the truth shines more and more. So we're not afraid. All right? So he says, you who fear salvation are choosing death. Right? And that salvation, once again, is the realization that I haven't left the mind that thought me. I haven't left God's mind. That realization is salvation. So those of us who fear that realization, because you're choosing death, all right? Because the ego, no matter what we do, it leads to the physical death. All right? And it sometimes, well, all the time, because this course is so poetic, there's layers of meaning in words. You know, Jesus will say, there is no life outside of heaven. So if I choose to believe I'm separated from heaven, then I've chosen death. Okay. All right? So, and he says, be glad. The ego thought system will wither and die. He says, be glad about that, because, I mean, when you think about it, it's difficult. You know? It's very difficult. All right? So be glad. And once again, as I say, the things get repeated in different ways. He says, the light will shine from the true foundation of life. All right? The light will shine from the true foundation of life, which is the source, which is God. All right? It will shine from the true foundation, and your own thought system will stand corrected. All right? So this whole ego thought system will be corrected. Okay? And if you remember from a few sessions ago, Jesus says, I came to correct, but from the bottom up. All right? Not all of a sudden just, okay, everybody, let's go home now. And everybody's enlightened. Everybody's enraptured. No, we got to start where we are. We got to look at what you believe and then have your perception changed. Shine the light on it, so to speak. All right? Then your own thought system will stand corrected. All right? And Jesus is a punster, so he says it can't stand otherwise. All right? So, all righty then. So that's creating versus self-image. All right? And just to reiterate, I like the sentence. The world is not left by death, but by truth. All right? So we leave this world that we have miscreated, this world of perception, by shining the light of truth on it. And then we get those aha moments. Oh. And they grow stronger and bigger and they last longer. And then it's okay. It's okay to leave that thought system. It's okay to relinquish it, as I like to say. All right? So the world is not left by death, but by truth. And truth can be known by all those for whom the kingdom was created and for whom it waits. And that's you and me. So be glad, and we'll all be there together. All righty then. All right, have a great day, have a good night, all those things. All right, bye-bye now.